And this is K.Kraetzer, and we're at the PACE meeting in New York City. That's the Professional Association for Customer Engagement. We have a chance to talk with our key speaker today, Tripp Babbitt, who's a management consultant, and gave us a great set of exercises on how to work on our call centers and gain improvement and work on our systems. And Tripp, maybe you could explain a couple of principles you talked about today with normative learning. Very important as far as how we can work with our call center staff so that they better understand program.
Yeah, so typically there's three strategies to learning and to change. And that is, the first one is coercion, which is, basically a manager tells a worker what to do. The second is rationalization, where you might have a conversation with somebody and they might say, oh, that makes sense, type of thing, but it doesn't really change their thinking or improve their learning. But the third way is giving them a normative experience, which means that in order to change thinking, we have to give them an experiential learning. They have to kind of, in organizations, it'd be kind of taking them to where the work is being done. And by virtue of that normative experience, they can unpack their brain in order to be able to learn. Because the other two strategies, to be honest with you, are the most used, but they don't work.
Okay. And you have a premise that you've been working with called the 95% method, working with the importance of a system that a company needs to build. Tell us a little bit about the 95% method.
Sure. So it originally came from W. Edwards Deming. He said that 94% of the performance of an organization is down to the system and only 6% is the individual. And I like to round up, so I went to 95%, saying the same thing. Basically, 95% of the performance of the system is down to the system you work in, and only 5% is to the individual.
And one of the things that we just spent some time on is looking at calls that a call center might get, typical calls. Are they avoidable or are they unavoidable?
Right.
What's the most important thing on that, trying to be able to anticipate our customers' needs?
Actually going and listening to calls and listening to the customer, because that's the only way you can discern whether something can be stopped or not. If it's avoidable, then you can certainly lower the number of calls that you're getting in to your contact center, and sometimes that requires asking some questions about why someone is calling in, and more of the background to it.
And Tripp, you work with groups all over the United States and internationally. What are some of the key topics that you work with your clients on?
It's got to be systems thinking. It's the ability to see your organization as a whole rather than functional parts. Everything's divided into sales and operations and HR and IT, and be able to have something where you're looking at the whole of the organization. That's probably one of the most important things.
And talking with Tripp Babbitt, I know you've got an ebook out. What will customers or people who are interested learn from your ebook?
Well, it takes you through, there's 4 chapters. It's called The Service Cost Paradox. And the first chapter is really about unlearning your particular organization by studying customer in. The second chapter has to do with looking at your culture and how it influences the design of the work that's being done. And chapter 3 then starts into principles for doing a redesign of your organization, and chapter 4 then is the actual steps of what you would do in a redesign.
Great. And Tripp, what's the best way for someone to learn more about your consulting practice, maybe receive that ebook?
Just go to www.newsystemsthinking.com. I also do a podcast for the W. Edwards Deming Institute that has a lot of material that's around the same types of things, so that may be interesting to folks too.
Tripp Babbitt, thank you so much for coming and joining us today at PACE, the Professional Association for Customer Engagement.
Thank you, Ken.
Good to see you. This is K.Kraetzer in New York City for CBSI.